Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly, Executive Director for the Alzheimer's Association here in Northern California and Northern Nevada, and welcome to our September Facebook Live. I have several things to share with you today. What we're going to cover is some of the basics. What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? By far the most common question we get asked. I have some exciting breaking news to share with you from Washington, D.C., some research highlights, more about how families can get help from the Alzheimer's Association, and last but not least, how you can get involved in the movement to defeat Alzheimer's. So let's first start with the basics. By far, the most common question we get asked is, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? And I have this conversation in many different ways. Sometimes people will say to me, well, gosh, my mom has dementia. Thank goodness it isn't Alzheimer's yet. Well, there's some flaws with that kind of reasoning, and let me share with you why that is. So first off, when we talk about dementia, we're talking about someone having cognitive impairment that gets worse over time. It's a very generic descriptor of difficulties that someone's having. So for example, what tends to happen in people with dementia is they have a hard time remembering things, they may have difficulty with judgment, reasoning, taking care of finances, recognizing a scam when it's on the other end of the phone, and a whole host of other challenges that many of us know of as dementia. The term dementia doesn't really say a whole lot about the severity. It can be mild, affecting maybe one or two areas of functioning, but generally the person's doing pretty well, or it can be quite severe. What the term dementia doesn't tell us, however, is what is causing those symptoms. That's where Alzheimer's comes in. Alzheimer's is a disease that causes the symptoms of dementia. It's not the only disease that causes dementia, but it's the #1 cause of dementia. So everyone with Alzheimer's has dementia by definition, but not everyone with dementia has Alzheimer's. They can also have vascular dementia or Lewy body dementia, which is what my mother's been diagnosed with, or frontal lobe dementia, or a host of others. You can even have more than one kind of dementia. But if someone's been diagnosed with dementia, it just tells you generically they have cognitive impairment that's getting worse over time. It doesn't tell you what's causing it. So if it's your loved one or a friend who's experiencing symptoms of dementia, I encourage you to encourage them to ask questions. Ask the doctor, what do you think is causing these symptoms? And what might we do to address it? In some cases, dementia is actually reversible. There are some causes that if we make some changes, people can improve. So don't just settle for a diagnosis of dementia. Get more information and recognize that learning more about it is going to be helpful in the long run. Reach out to the Alzheimer's Association if you have more questions about this. We are happy to help, and we have fantastic resources to explain this to you. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly with the Alzheimer's Association, and welcome to our September Facebook Live. Now we're going to move on to some wonderful news. I got a text about this today, and our Facebook page is lit up with fantastic news. The United States House of Representatives approved and added $425 million to the federal research budget for Alzheimer's science. This follows on the heels of the Senate doing the exact same thing. Now, if the president signs it into law, we will see that we are now over $2 billion. We'd actually be at $2.3 billion. Now, I pulled up this slide here for you because I want to put this in context. This is 2011. So from 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, and really 2015, we were at the approximately $500 million mark for Alzheimer's science, $500 million. Since 2015, when the Alzheimer's Association really ramped things up and we had a number of legislative wins, we have started seeing increases, and they are the direct result of the work of the Alzheimer's Impact Movement and so many of you out there who are advocates and ambassadors with the Alzheimer's Association. We saw jumps in 2016, 2017, last year 2018, and now to get over $2 billion, we should be dancing in the streets. Now, of course, we have a lot of work to do. Our scientists out there have to make the improvements to get drugs and other approaches that are going to really make an impact. But without the money, it's really hard to get those wins. So this is fantastic news that I'm so happy to share with you. Now let's go on to the next slide. So be bold, become an advocate. What that means is we are asking you, everyone out there and all of your friends, to join us as an advocate for the Alzheimer's Association and to join the Alzheimer's Impact Movement. That is what made those advances in research funding possible, and also another legislative win, the BOLD Act. This is something we're working on to help have Alzheimer's be a public health issue and to have the federal government investing in the infrastructure we need to take this to the next level. For more information, check out our website at alz.org, and you can read all about the BOLD Act and how to sign up as an AIM member and an advocate. I hope you do that. It's really impactful and it's not hard to do. Let's go on to the next update. Research highlights. So often when we do our Facebook Live, people want to know what's the latest in research. We shared with you some big updates from AAIC at last month's Facebook Live. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. But let's talk about advances in drug discovery. We recently held a local researchers symposium. It was fantastic. Thank you to all the scientists. We had about 120 scientists there sharing the latest research. And one of the things they talked about really piqued my interest, and that was the challenge of crossing the blood-brain barrier. So what does that mean? I think most of us have heard about this, but what does it really mean? It means that our body is designed to really protect our brain from viruses and other harmful factors that could get in and cause us to have an infection or an adverse reaction and ultimately perish. And so one of the unique challenges around brain diseases is that any drug has to be able to get through this incredible protective barrier that's designed to keep those things out. So we were able to hear from some of the top researchers in the world who talked about what they're doing to do that. And it was just fascinating, and I'm not a scientist, so I can't give you all the details, but one of the researchers talked about a molecule that they're using that they found can actually pass through the blood-brain barrier. And when it does, they've made this molecule so that it can actually carry things with it across the blood-brain barrier. Now that never occurred to me. They said you don't just want to get into the blood-brain barrier, you want to get through the barrier carrying something. So the way that they've designed this molecule is it can carry not just one type of drug, but potentially two types of drugs because of the way it's designed. It's just amazing the science that's taking place, and there's so much more out there than I can even explain to you. I just wanted you to know I walked away from that feeling excited, in awe of the brilliant scientists that are working on this, and really hopeful that when we have a drug, that there are researchers out there making sure it can be delivered through the blood-brain barrier safely, and that, of course, the most important thing is that it has an impact. Another piece of research that we heard about is something you might have heard in the news, and that's research that took place at the Gladstone Institute. Dr. Yadong Huang shared his research on working on cells that are taken from skin cells of people who carry the E4 gene and people who carry the E3 gene. Now the ApoE4 gene is a risk factor for Alzheimer's. And even in cultivated cell dishes, so picture petri dishes with cells in them, they build up amyloid. It's kind of amazing that you can take a skin cell from someone with Alzheimer's with the E4 gene, and even in a petri dish, it will start to do abnormal things. And what he found is working with these cell lines that by adding in a molecule, he could change the shape of the E4 gene, essentially, so that it looked like the harmless E3 gene. Totally cool stuff going on out there. Again, I'm not doing it justice, but these are the takeaways that left me thinking, wow, what a time that we're living in. It can't happen soon enough. I hope you feel hopeful about this, and you know that there is amazing work taking place here in Northern California, across the country, and across the globe. And the Alzheimer's Association is the #1 nonprofit private funder of that research. Currently, we have over $160 million at play across the globe in critical research studies like this. So when you support the Alzheimer's Association, you can feel good that you own some of this work yourself. So another thing I want to mention, we heard from multiple speakers about the importance of diversity, meaning we are not all the same when it comes to our risk of Alzheimer's and when it comes to how these genes play out. So I won't go into all the details, but what we know are men are different from women in terms of the E4 gene and how it affects us. Caucasian individuals are different from Asian individuals, from Latinos and African Americans around these genes too. It's a very complicated picture. And even things like our early childhood experience, our dental health at an early age seems to play into our risk of Alzheimer's. So there's so much to learn, and there's really interesting science taking place. Last but not least, I want to share that we are getting closer to the point of launching the Alzheimer's Association's U.S. Pointer Study. We are doing this in partnership with Wake Forest and UC Davis in Northern California, Northern Nevada. We will have a site up in the Sacramento area, and we'll be looking at, does lifestyle make a difference? So if I eat my dark green leafy vegetables and fruits and eat healthy olive oils and almonds and all that, and exercise and do a whole host of things, does it make a difference? We know from other studies, the finger studies across the globe, it seemed to make a difference in other parts of the world. But what about for us here in the United States? If you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly with the Alzheimer's Association. This is our September Facebook Live. Now we're going to move on to the next focus, and that is how to get help. If you have been recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's or you have a loved one with some form of dementia, the Alzheimer's Association is here for you. We work with families with a variety of dementias. It's not only Alzheimer's. In fact, our full name is the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders Association. So you are welcome, and we invite you to reach out to our 24/7 helpline, 1-800-272-3900. We have multiple languages available, and we're there 24/7 to answer questions and offer support. We also have support groups in all of the communities around the country, and in Northern California, Northern Nevada, we have over 150 groups, some of which are for people with an early stage diagnosis, and others are for caregivers. Check that out online at alz.org and find the group closest to you. There are also telephone groups and even online chat groups, so there's no excuses. If you need to talk to someone, we're there, and there are many people, millions of people like you also out there. Last but not least, we have a variety of classes and conferences coming up. I encourage you to check out our website, some of them that are coming up soon. For Hispanic Heritage Month in the month of October, we have a series of workshops with Univision in San Jose. Check that out. The next one, I believe, is October 3rd, Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body. We also have some programs in Chinese. We have a Cantonese English Forum in San Francisco at the end of the month. We have English language programs in Madeira on November 3rd, and we have a conference in Yountville, beautiful Yountville. So please check that out and check our website for up-to-date information about the latest offerings. So how does all this work happen? How do we have a 24/7 helpline and support groups, and we don't charge for our caregiver groups or for the helpline? Well, really, you make that possible. Thank you to all of you who support the Alzheimer's Association. I want to highlight a few of our big events. Some are coming up, some have already happened. First, we'll start with the Walk to End Alzheimer's. We have 7 walks down and 11 to go, so this is walk season. If we could go to the next slide, that would be great. All right, on our Facebook, check out our Facebook page every Friday to see the Facebook Friday shout-outs. We had 4 walks this last weekend, and thank you to the top teams and all of the walkers and all of the teams in Fresno at the Fresno Clovis Walk. Team Mo and Agi, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, raised over $14,000. In Redding, good old Phil raised over $5,000. In Reno Sparks, the women of Sigma Kappa raised over $14,000. I was at that walk. Yay, Sigma Kappa. And Santa Cruz, the mighty Cure Be Found, has now raised over $38,000. They're actually more at like $42,000. Thank you, Julie Merrill and family. So we also have this Saturday, Sacramento. I'll be there, Sacramento peeps. Hope to see you. We've got some incredible things happening in Sacramento. Thank you, Virginia Stone. So far, top fundraiser at over $11,000. That's amazing, Virginia. Oakmont Senior Living, over $22,000. And our staff team, over $16,000. But Heritage Park, also over $15,000. These are big numbers. These numbers make a huge difference, and even the small numbers make a huge difference. So if you haven't participated and signed up, it's not too late. We need your support to hit our goal of 6.2 million. That's what makes it all possible. And I want to do a shout out. One thing you may or may not know is that there's a lot of this at the Walk to End Alzheimer's. Why do we have Walk to End Alzheimer's cowbells? Every time we have a champion or grand champion, people who've raised $500 or $1,000 at registration, you hear this. Now, for Vicki Patel and her family team, we need a whole lot more than one cowbell. We need about 200 cowbells. Vicki and her team have raised and donated over $400,000 for the Silicon Valley Walk to End Alzheimer's. Thank you, Vicki and Team Poppies, for all your support of our work. Again, we could not do what we do without the support and generosity of all of you, and thank you especially to the Patel family. A little bit about some events that have finished up, and thanks to all of you who participated in the longest day. Final numbers are in. Our chapter raised over $360,000. We were number 2 in the country. Next year we want to be number 1. Well, we always want to be number 1, but next year we're going to be number 1. We had over 500 participants, almost 250 teams. Thank you to everyone who participated. If you'd like to sign up, it's already time to start signing up. So if you're having a party or something at your house, I heard some wonderful creative ideas. One of our board members, Peter Reed, did this, where he and his wife hosted a game party, and they raffled off the leftover alcohol as a fundraiser. I thought, this is brilliant. Who doesn't have leftover alcohol at the end of a dinner party? What a fun way to raise a little more money, and they're over $1,000 in their fundraising for the walk. But that would be an ideal kind of event for the longest day. I'd like to now acknowledge our top teams. Millbraes, Arthur Murray team, you are fabulous. Thank you. The Villages Golf and Country Club did a golf tournament that was hugely successful. The American Contract Bridge League, both Unit 512 and the Peninsula teams were top teams in our area. Thank you. The Dance for Life team, the Longest Tennis Rally, and last but not least, Arthur Murray Livermore team. All of these teams raised over $10,000, and some of them ended up being at the very top. A special shout out again to Arthur Murray, who is a global sponsor that started right here in Northern California. Thank you to all of you and everyone who participated in the longest day. I hope you had fun. All right, last but not least, Rivals. Not everybody's heard of Rivals. It used to be called Blondes versus Brunettes, and it's a powder puff football game. I love Rivals, and I love the women who are involved in this charity football game. It is fun, but it is serious business for these players. Women train for months and months, and they come together. You choose a team. You don't actually have to be blonde to be on the blonde team or brunette to be on the brunette team. You just choose a team. And these two teams raised over $43,000 in August at the football game in San Francisco. And congratulations to the blondes who won this year. Last time I went, it was the brunettes. So good for you. It's nice to see this healthy competition, all in the honor of people living with Alzheimer's and trying to make a difference for those living with Alzheimer's. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't signed up for a walk, it's not too late. We sure could use your support, and we'll see you next month at our October Facebook Live. Thanks, everybody. Take care.